Well, if we look at the state of our nation, there is no doubt that we are watching the fabric of Judeo-Christian values unravel. Dr. Marshall Foster believes that we have forgotten the covenant that our founders made with our Creator and why it sets our nation apart. He addresses this issue in his new book, The American Covenant, The Untold Story, and he joins us now to share more. Dr. Foster, welcome to the Prayer Link.
It's a joy to be with you.
First of all, why did you feel it was important to tell this story?
Well, because it's the center and the foundation of America. America wasn't founded on a revolution. As John Adams said, the revolution took place long before the battles. It happened when there was a change of religious sentiment in the heart of the people, he said. And that was the Great Awakening, brought on by revival, brought on by prayer. It was started in the 1730s and 40s. And before that, the colonists for 150 years covenanted with God, beginning with the Mayflower Compact, beginning with the Connecticut Constitution, right on through the colonial era. God was at the center of our government, the center of our churches, the center of our lives. And the covenant was the foundation. And we have forgotten that covenant. And if we are going to restore our country, it won't be left or right or fighting it out in the trenches of some warfare thing. It's going to happen when we go back to God and renew our covenant, the original American covenant that has made us the most blessed nation the world has ever known.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you on that. How do you think we can go about restoring the values that set our nation apart?
Well, I think it starts with the restoration of that covenant. And as Jesus said, remember from whence thou hast fallen, repent and do the deeds you did at first. Until the American people remember who they are, remember their heritage, remember their forefathers, remember their covenants. That's why God always goes back and says, remember the covenant, remember, because they forgot the covenant. That's why they went into judgment. And so God is a forgiving God, a loving God, but every nation shares a covenant with God, whether they know it or not. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. If the God of the Bible is not your Lord, your nation's in trouble, right?
Absolutely.
But if our nation, which was founded upon Judeo-Christian principles from the very beginning, and in all of our structures and in our Declaration of Independence, which we're celebrating this week, is actually a covenant. It is what I would call the American covenant. And I've been teaching this for 40 years. In fact, it was Pat Robertson and I meeting in 1983 when I first published the first American covenant that produced the first documentary that was produced on the 700 Club in 10 different episodes called The American Covenant. And it's because Pat saw that vision long before anyone else, that it is the covenant restoration that is the beginning of the revival of America. Now, 40 years later, working with Kirk Cameron, doing films, he got a copy of the old one, which we talk about all the time. He said, wow, this is the book I want to use. And for 100 days, he taught through the old book. About halfway through, I rewrote the book, and it's got 100 more pages, called The American Covenant, The Untold Story. And we gave this to the American people here over the last 40 or 50 days. He's still teaching it every Thursday night in what's called Patriot Night in the American Campfire Revival. So, so this concept of covenant is being reestablished, but Pat was the one that put it out to the nation back in 1983.
You touched on the question I was going to ask you next. You've taken part in Kirk Cameron's American Campfire Revival, which started out as a 100-day prayer event, but has certainly grown into a movement that has attracted believers all around the world. Why do you think so many people are taking part in this event?
Well, because they see the credibility of Kirk Cameron. He is not only credible, but he is a great communicator of these basic truths, these fundamental truths, and he takes us back. Right now, he's dealing with the family dare for 40 days. But for the first 100 days, it was the American Covenant book that he walked through, because he realized we had to build the foundation. And step by step, he walked through the chapters of the book and then prayed with the people. Kirk has an amazing ability to simply communicate in a 15 or 20-minute period every night with the people. And he's going to continue to do so. And this campfire revival that we began back in January is going to continue throughout the year. And there will be campfire revivals physically, huge campfires throughout the country that will be lit this fall. I believe that we are on the verge, not just through this campfire revival, but through the many different aspects of how God has worked and is working right now, we're at the beginning of another great awakening that I believe we'll see explode upon the nation this fall.
I believe you're right. We're looking forward to it. Dr. Marshall Foster, thank you so much for your book, and thank you for taking the time to talk with us today. God bless.
God bless you too. Thank you.